Okay, welcome back. We've got a little add-on video on bots today. We're going to be extending what we learned last time, and we're going to try to get some autonomous control. So when the bot drives around the floor and it bumps into something, it's going to know that it's bumped into something and then back up or do something to avoid that obstacle. So let's get started. I'm going to switch views. There we go. The wiring for this is pretty straightforward. I've got half of it done already. That's a little different than normal. Normally I do it all right from scratch, right in front of you. But I wanted to explain how some of this works, and then I'll be building the second half with you. Both halves are symmetrical, so I thought it would be just a nice way to try this one out. So basically, we've got these pieces of metal, and you can see, they end up, they terminate up here, and when the bot moves forward, it's going to bump and press the wall or whatever it hits. This metal's going to be bent back, pressed back, or in this case, we pressed back, and eventually it's going to hit this little header right here. And I'm going to pull the header out so you can see it a little better. Put it on my finger. This header, you actually buy it in long strips like this, and then you snap it to the, usually you don't just snap with your fingers because you want to have it break off in the lengths that you need. In this case, I snapped it off the length of 3, but we could have gone a little longer. And the point is I need this so that when my wire is pushed back, it'll hit one of these wires, and that'll connect it to my breadboard, and then I can do something with that information. So I'll put that back in there. So this guy is going to press up against that, and that's going to give me access to my breadboard. Now when it's not pressing against that, this is kind of interesting as well. My wire goes all the way over to here and is bolted down to the side of the bot. Now most of this should be already there. You may have to attach these wires, but most of this should already be done for you. But just in case, let me talk about just a couple more things here. So the wire is attached right here. It's screwed in, and it looks like it just terminates right here. Nothing else happens, but actually the screw goes down through here and attaches to this metal cylinder. And on this shield right here, some of the blue right here in the corner is etched out, and you can kind of see that in the corner here around this screw. You see some metal etched out around it, and the same thing over here. Well, that is also right here and on this side. So basically, to make a long story short, this wire right here, when it's pressed, it actually, this side goes into this screw and goes to that etched part, and then that is actually heads to internally to a ground inside of this shield. So this screw is grounded. So anything that attaches to it, which of course is this metal, is going to be grounded. And it goes right through the frame of the bot here. Kind of like your car. Well, not your car, your parents' car. Kind of works in a similar manner. They can explain that part to you. Alright, so the other half is built already. I've got these 2 resistors. One of them is heading over here, and I've got it going into this side part. This, you really can't see it too well, my camera view here, but it's going into the 5-volt little header over here. So the other end is heading over into a pin. I think I've got it in pin, looks like pin 3. So when it's not pressed in, when this is not pressed in, then I'm drawing 5 volts through this resistor, and it's pulling that right into my pin. When I do press this, then I've got this grounded over here, and this thing should look like it's an open switch. No 5 volts are being drawn into it. So I can have 5 volts going in, or excuse me, have 5 volts going into it, then when I press it, then it'll be grounded out. So we'll have our 0, 1, which we want this to be. We want this to be a switch. On and off, on and off. And then we'll collect that information in the pin, and we'll have it do something. We'll say, all right, this is pressed in, so let's have our bot respond by going backwards or turning or something like that. So this will give us information about the world around us that we can include in our program. Okay, so I didn't include the second half because this wire right here, it gets pressed, it's not pressing it anything. Oh, I didn't tell you the size of these resistors. This is about 10,000 ohms, and this is about 220 ohms. So try to find one that's approximately that size. I mean, I know we have a lot of 4,700s. That's probably will work for this one, and we have 330s. That'll probably work for this one just fine. But the ones I'm using are 10,000 and 220. So let's complete this other half. I'll put this header in here. So this wire will press up against it. It's really close right now. Maybe a millimeter separates it. So it'll be a very sensitive little switch on that side. I've got my 220. I'm going to send this one over into pin 2. And then I'll take the other one, the 10,000, and I'm going to reach it all the way over here into the 5 volt rail on that side, making sure I'm a little bit careful about how my resistors touch. I don't want these resistors touching these resistors. I gotta make sure I've got some space in there. So I'm going to just bend those back a little bit. So we got lots of good room right there. Okay, so we'll do a little program, and the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the information we're getting from these pins. Make sure everything's working properly. We're getting, in our case, it'll be when this is not attached, we'll get 5 volts coming from over here. When it is touching, it'll be grounded from our screw over here, and it'll be 0. So we should get at this state, it should be a 1, and then when we press it, it should be a 0. Alright, let's set that there and open up our program. Slide over it a little bit. And we got a little slice right there in my video. What could that be? We won't worry about it. Let's see, it's on this side? No, on that side? What is that? Nope, I can see my little, I'm sorry, little things like that irritate me. Okay, so my camera got a little bumped. Alright. I think my whole monitor is like tilted about 10 degrees more than normal. So I think my monitor got bumped somehow. Alright, so here's our program. And let's rip out some of these comments again. We want to see what's going on. Whoop. You want to see what's going on. So we're going to use the serial monitor. And we need a dot there. 9600. We needed some pin modes for the 2 pins that we're going to use up here. I think there's 2 and 3, doesn't matter at the moment. We just need to make sure they're inputs. 3, make that an input. I think the default is input. I said that a couple times, but then when I program, I'm always forgetting whether the default is an input or an output, so I always just throw pin modes on there. So I don't have to worry about it. So it's going to expect information to come into these pins. Alright, and then we're going to want to read. Let's see. We're going to need a variable to store this in. Let's do right and left. So I'm not even sure. It's going to get a little tricky because this wire over here is attached to this side, and this wire over here is attached to this side. I could worry my brain about my rights and my lefts and make sure everything matches up. I think it's a little easier just to pick something, go with it, and then if my bot's doing the opposite or the wrong thing, then I can just go back to my code and just fix it pretty fast. And I don't even worry about if my right is my left or I got things backwards. So we want to read what that pin says. And we're using 2 and 3. I'm going to assume that this side over here is, which is my 2, I'm going to just call that right for now. And that looks good. Let's do left. Actually, we just do one at a time or do both. Let's just do one real quick. This will tell us that our wiring is really good. Serial print again. We've done this a lot, haven't we? Throw right in there. Let's do a little delay so the information is not on our coming up on our serial monitor super fast. Let's just slow it down to a quarter of a second, and we'll just read that out again and again. So I think that'll work. We got variables. We tell what's going to be with an input variables. We turn on the serial monitor, and that looks fabulous. I need to plug in my bot to the computer so I can upload this code. I really don't need to plug this in yet. There's no motion occurring. If you forget, if it does move and you forget to plug this in, it'll just be slower. I think it'll just a lot more sluggish. Actually, if you untether yourself, of course, and you try to get to move on the ground, and you don't plug that in, nothing's going to happen. But the 5 volts you get from this would probably be enough to get it to move a little bit. Right now, I'm just going to leave that one unplugged because we're not even worried about motion yet. Okay, so let's upload this. Very good. Of course, you got a little break here for our little piggy. And looks like almost done. Our green line. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You know what? One of the reasons why it's probably taking a long time is I didn't take the time to go up here and peek to see if I actually had the right ports and everything. It found them automatically, but sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But that can lead to having the download not work and take a long time. So let's take a peek here. There's our zeros. So we had the 2. Oh, let's move this up so you can see it. We had the pin 2 set up in our code. So this wire, and you can't see that. Let's go down a little further. This is the wire that's going to connect to pin 2. So when I press this one, we see nothing. So let me look real close here. Let me take my glasses off, get really close. That is pin 2. Oh, I'm pushing with the wrong one. Nope, nothing there. Well, that's not cool. Check everything out a little bit. That's in there just fine. I don't have power to my breadboard. I'm on 0 right over here. Let's see if that's going to cause us a little change, and that is alright. So that's, so I'm glad these things happen. Puts me on the spot. I got to think super fast, but right here, if you look next to this, it actually tells you what the different switch settings are. And 1 is breadboard and 2 is breadboard plus the servo, and the servos are going to make the wheels turn, of course. And I had mine on 0. I had nothing going on. So right now we're seeing 1s on the over here on the serial monitor because we're drawing 5 volts from the 5-volt rail over here, and then when this thing gets pressed, we're grounding it with this screw over here, and we're getting 0. So that's working nicely. Let's quickly add in the other side. I love to slowly work into this, add little bits of structure here, and make sure everything's working as I go, because if I don't, then I have a lot more to try to troubleshoot through. A lot more possibilities. So now I know my wiring's good. I know that half is working well. I'll check the other half. And then we'll send that information to the servos to try to get them to avoid obstacles, or to do something after they've collided with an obstacle. It's a better way to say it. Alright, so we're checking the other side. That's this wire here. Presses up against it, and we get 0. Good. So we're receiving information from the physical world, and now we can take that and have it do something. In this case, we'll output some servo commands. Okay, let me leave my glasses off. I'm actually nearsighted, so I see better up close without my glasses. We need to go back and get my mind wrapped around what we're doing next. We're doing adding some servo library, because we got to get these wheels to move. So we add a little library. We've got to declare some variables. We're going to use, I don't know, right wheel, left wheel. That sound pretty good. We're making these up. Let's do right wheel and left wheel. Spell it right there. And then we have to attach down here, tell it what pin each of those servos is attached to, the right wheel and left wheel. So we're going to do right wheel. Dot attach. And the pin for the right one, again, I could pick this up, look around, follow the wires. I'm just going to randomly pick what I think is the right wheel. I'm just going to say it's 13, because we can fix it after. And you may think this is not the way to go, and maybe it isn't. We'll find out, right? And this one is 12. How do I know which ones they are? They're right over here. These are coming from my servo, and they turn it right into here, 13 and 12. So I'm just going to write in 12. And we got a 50-50 chance of getting it right without even thinking about it. So let's go for that. Okay, so we attached the pins to right wheel, left wheel that we told the servo library we defined those 2 pins, and we don't need to see anything anymore, so let's get rid of this. Now we just need to have the bot respond. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do a little if statement. Let's say if right is, we don't want to use an equal sign, we want to use 2 equal signs, because we're not assigning it this value, we're checking to see if it is this value. And right now it should be a 1, so we want to do something when it's a 0. So when these wires get pressed up against here, we'll have it do something. So when it's a 1, we want it to do something. So what should we have it do? Let's have it just try to back up. So we're going to do right wheel. We saw this command. We're missing a capital in there probably. Probably are missing a capital and a right. Okay. And this is where it gets slightly confusing, even for me, I forget. What I did though is in our Canvas page, if you go down a little bit, I included right down here with that little spectrum we talked about last time, where 1500 is the servo's not moving at all, 1300 is moving at full speed and clockwise, 1700 is full speed counterclockwise. And if we select numbers in between, we'll just get less speed, but still that direction. And the same thing for the pin 12. You notice the only difference is that they are totally backwards from each other. So there's a lot of orientation issues with this, but let's just have these be the opposite, the right wheel, left wheel. Microseconds, and let's just give that a go. Okay, and then after it does this, we probably need to do one more thing here. Do a little delay. Let's do that for, I'm going to do it really short. I don't want to run it off my tabletop here. Let's just like half a second. I just want to jump into this really fast, see what's going on, and then I like to adapt to what I'm seeing instead of trying to work it all out in my head, make sure everything's right, and then find out, oh, I did mess up something. So we're going to delay, and then we have to have it not do something. I mean, it's going to keep going back. If you don't have the delay in here and then have something afterwards, it's going to go backwards, but then continuously go backwards. So we want it to stop doing everything. So I'm going to do a little copy paste here. So I want both wheels to do nothing, to stop and do nothing. Now technically we could actually add it out here outside of the if, assuming that I don't keep holding on to this. We could throw it out here, but for whatever reason I'm going to put it inside here, so when he sees one, hopefully it backs up, maybe it goes forward, we'll find out. If so, we can just swap these, and then we'll wait half a second, and then it'll stop. Let's give that a try. Let's just throw that in there and see what we got. We can make adjustments. So we're plugged into the computer. Everything's good. I don't have my servo on, so it's not going to do anything at the moment. I'm just going to upload this. Go through the upload challenge here. Sometimes that's often a big challenge, trying to get these programs compiled, verified and compiled. Usually I'm pretty fortunate on this computer. It's really generally pretty fast. It's already done. But some of those laptops, they go real slow. Now there's nothing to look at the serial monitor. Everything should check out just fine. I should be able to turn this on and nothing happens still. Oh, going forward. That's not good. That's not good. So let's turn this back off and take a peek. We had this on 1. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's doing what I told it to do. I wish it just knew what I wanted it to do and not do what I tell it to do. When it does what I tell it to do, it often makes mistakes because I'm making the mistake. So, which is just fine. Having a 1 here. See, right now it's drawing the 5 volts from the rail over here, and then it's getting a signal of 1. But I put a 1 in my program, so I needed to go to a 0 because when the whisker presses on this, then I'm grounding it out and it goes to a 0. So I need to have that be a 0. And that was for, I don't even know which one. We'll find out which one's left and which one's right. Let's try it again. And actually, once we work out some bugs, making sure it goes backwards, we're pretty much done. And I'll tell you what you need to do. You're going to add to this. Give you a little challenge. All right, that looks good. Let's turn the servo on. We got a little bit of, okay, we got a little bit of turning. It's kind of crawling off at a really slow speed. This is something else, actually. This is something else, but I'm going to actually hold this up, and we'll talk about what that is in just a moment. The one wheel being a little funny, and the other wheel being stopped. This is a calibration issue. But let's hit our wire anyway, one of them. Nothing. Alright, there we go. In this case, it is going to go into the wall. So when I hit this, it's going to go into the wall. Now I don't want this. Great. A little announcement there. I'll pause.
Woodbury is sitting by the photo booth. You can get your picture taken.
Plug that in while I'm sitting here thinking about it. That might help. That does help a little bit. Now both of them are just slightly turning, both wheels. This means that at 0, we're not really 0. We got a little bit of motion going. But it's so slow, we're not going to worry about it right now. We'll clean that up. What I need to know is when I press this, it heads away for half a second there, right? Actually, it seemed like it went a little longer than that. I'm going to hold it up so we can see it. I'll press it here. Well, that's interesting. They're responding nicely, both of them. When I press it, no, it's probably. Oh, okay. What's going to be happening here is, for a moment though, it should go off. For half a second, it's going to go off. Then it's going to go back to the top, and then it's going to go right back to the if statement. When it's going to send it back on again. So I'm ripping right out of this and heading right back through this really fast. So we got to clean that up too. So let's go back and fix some of these little errors we got. We'll turn that back off. On my program here, I said, okay, wait a half a second. What I should do actually to verify this, let's have it do this. I'll show you what I mean for part of this, because we got 3 errors going on. One of which is calibration of those wheels, which means that 1500 is not making it totally off, turn off. It might be 1510 or 1520 we need. That's the least of our worries. I want to make sure that when it goes inside of this if statement, that we're actually making it go backwards. We're actually heading the wrong direction. Let's fix that while we're here too. Let's flip these around. Let's go 14 and let's go 16. So they should go this direction, and then half a second, and then turn off, and we'll force it to wait a second. But then it's jumping out, and there's nothing else for it to do. It jumps out here and goes, oh, I don't have nothing else to do, and so it jumps right to the beginning of the loop, and since I'm holding it, it goes right into the 0 again. So takes longer to explain that than it does to actually fix all that. But I think it's still certainly a lot easier than worrying about which side is left and which side is right. Okay, so we did that. We'll turn it on. We've got this tiny little motion in the wheel. This actually has none on this side this time around. It's very tiny. We're not going to worry about it. That's the last thing we'll worry about. We'll press this. Okay, so it stopped. See how it's a little it's hiccuping here? So that's exactly what I've got in there. We're waiting the half second. I'm going to put it on the ground though, so we can see it actually going backwards, minus that little walk. So it's heading back. That works good. One more time. So when we crash into the wall here, it heads back, and probably going straight back is not ideal. You probably wanted to go back and do some turning, or probably go back to get away from the wall and then do a little turn. This is what you're going to be figuring out as the little challenge. What I'm going to do though is make sure the other side works. We'll do a if statement for this so that I can push my hand up here, and then the whole thing will go back. And then we'll talk just for a minute about what I want you to do. I'm just thinking about this little hiccup right here. Maybe under setup, what would be best to try to knock that out? That little turn, and you may not even have that little turn in the wheel. And I'll demonstrate that one more time. When I turn this on, this one is not doing anything. Oh, it actually is barely moving, and this one is moving a little more. I wonder if it's better to clean that up in setup. Once we, let's see, what to do. I'm going to do this really quick. We've got time. You can always fast forward the video, right? Let's rip all that stuff out. Let me show you what I mean by this. Give you plenty of information so you can solve all these problems on your own. And then it's just a matter of details. So I'm going to rip all this stuff out.
Faculty and staff, if you want to head to the cafeteria, please. Lunch is there. Please pick up the one that you ordered.
Nice.
Also vote for the tree. And get your picture taken.
Awesome. I'll skip the picture taking. Okay, let's try this again. So everything's ripped out. All I have is it doing nothing. I say, hey, okay, turn on serials, but do nothing. So then I got this little hiccup part, right? So if I go in here and maybe change this to a 10, let's just do 1 out of 10. They're both turning just slightly. I swear I spent 20% of my video waiting for this to compile. Okay. So this one is not moving at all now. The other one is still moving a little bit. So by doing 1510 instead of 1500, I cleared out that problem. I'm going to do 1510 on both sides and see if that one stops. Again, I don't know which one's left or right. I really don't care. I just changed one and looked at the bot, see what happened. Compiling and quiet. How about that? They're both nice and quiet. Okay, so if you have that problem, play around with those numbers. Let's go back and do one last thing. Undo this. And I'm just going to copy and paste this whole thing because we're doing the same exact same thing for the right as we are doing with the left. We just want it so that when I bump it, we're going to send, I should combine these and just say, I got a lot of options here. I'm pausing because I'm not sure what actually I want to do. I could put an end right here, an end, so that when it's right and when it's left, then do all this, or I could actually operate each of these wires separately, which may be better. I mean, if one side hits but the other side doesn't. If I do an end, then they both I have to hit a wall that triggers both of them. But if I hit an obstacle that just triggers one side. So I'm thinking that maybe the way we have it now is probably better, because I wanted to go back, even if just one side hits, we can send it back. And that's what this would part do. So we saw how this worked, and send it back. Now when the other one gets triggered, it'll get sent back. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to add a little more to this. And basically what I want to see happen is take what we learned from the last video. I want you to go ahead and put in a buzzer in the setup so that if we have a brownout, it'll beep on us. And go back and watch that video if you don't remember how to do that. You don't need the LED if you don't want to. And then I'd like to have this thing driving. And you learned that in the last video, how to drive this around. You had to make a little box. And then I want you to have this thing driving with this new bit of code, so that as it's doing the box or triangle or whatever it is you want it to do, I'm being really open-ended with this, that if it hits a wall, you have this new code in here so that it'll interrupt what it is you're doing. And I like to have this thing back up and do a little turn. Now, we talked about turns in the last video as well. So to check this one off, we're going to set it on the ground, we're going to drive it into the wall and see what it does, see if it can respond, back up, turn, head off some other direction. And that'll be cool to watch. I'll be looking forward to seeing that. So let's end with that. And we'll see you on the next project.